Yo, what's poppin'? All my peeps, it is I, your host with the most renaissance man who always thinks he can. And champion of the peeps, Patty Pitts, back for another Raw
Well,
Rewind, courtesy of Pitts and Sara's Wrestling Show. And of course, you can't have Pitts and Sara's Wrestling Show without the best of the West. You cannot forget about Sarah Marshall. What's poppin', girl? How we feeling?
pretty good, I guess. I keep
Good.
I keep checking NXT to see if Pretty Deadly was on, and they haven't been. So
Yeah, I did not. I took a break from NXT this week because I got caught up in a stream that I was doing for the Nonsense Sports Network. Sarah, I lost with Josh Allen, so we're not too happy.
oh geez.
But that's why we come in here to talk wrestling because that always makes me happy. But yeah, I just was like, you know what? I am not off tomorrow, but tomorrow is like a mini Friday in a way
Mm-hmm.
because I do have Thursday off. So, and the tomorrow, just a little insight to my life for anyone who's interested of the champs excursions outside of this. So tomorrow's work, but then we have AEW at 8, okay, which Dynamite is the highlight of my Wednesdays. And then
Okay.
we have a new South Park.
Oh
So
geez.
I am at 10 o'clock. And then so we go 8 to 11 essentially. It's just absolute utter nonsense. And who better to be part of it than the captain himself? But you know what? It's time to me be the captain of this little shindig here and talk about Raw. And we have a
Yeah.
lot to talk about because you said to me in a text, and after rewatching it, I'm agreeing with you more and more that it was a fantastic show. I thought it was good last night when watching. I was like, oh, it was a good show. Like nothing bad, nothing amazing, but the the show itself, like it's just getting good. It's just very entertaining.
Yep. It's most of it. Um.
Most of it.
Yeah. So let's just get straight into it. We
What
have
era?
Edge and Beth Phoenix. They started the show, and I have to say that Edge's energy was like too much. Like he was so energized. I saw him. I don't know if anyone else noticed, but he like when he runs to one side and then he runs to the other side to like interact with fans. Both times that he did it, he like slapped Beth on the
Yeah, he did.
ass, and then she told him like, "Stop it." And then I was like, oh my gosh. So I just thought that was kind of funny because I was like, oh my gosh, she's putting her man in his place. Like, get your hands off
Did it
me,
one more
Adam.
time when he was in the ring, and then she was like, "All right, listen,
Yeah,
third strike."
I know. Because I just think like his energy, he was like so excited to be back or something. I don't know. But his energy was at like a 100. And that was the entire time that they were out there. He was just like on cloud 9. I don't know.
That's what happened.
So before we get into them challenging Judgment Day, which I think we all knew was coming,
Yeah.
A hot topic, and we've talked about it before since he just returned at the Royal Rumble. Are we kind of just over the Edge returns at this point? Because it's nothing against him. I think that it's just we've had so many returns, like Edge returns over the last 2 years. It just doesn't hit the same, and it's just
I agree a little bit.
yeah.
Kind of. I agree to the extent that we've had a lot.
Yeah.
The reason though is not because of his own doing it's just timing. Timing's a bitch, and with not only injuries and stuff, he also went from one head of creative to another.
Yeah.
And dealing with that, and that was a little bit of a return. Also, he's a little bit older now, and it feels like this is, I'm not going to say the last ride, but
No, it definitely is.
yeah, it's one of but it's just in that case, I get it, so it doesn't really affect. Like, I don't care about that element of it. I just would rather, or I would like to see him be in a feud where it's not just him being, returning and going over and getting that, feel good. No, this has like a story involved.
Mm-hmm.
So I see the process and watching it unfold and just like that it's unfolding the way it is. Even Finn Balor, making a comment about it. Like, aren't we, he returns and then I came again and again. And then when he said, maybe you should just quit, I don't know. Like, that just
Balor,
hit.
heel Finn Balor is like A plus plus plus. I am so glad that they finally let him be a heel, and you can tell that obviously they have some restraints, as all of them do, but I feel like they're a little bit loose with the Judgment Day because it doesn't sound like super scripted or rehearsed or anything like that. And I just love it because it just, I don't know, it's just more entertaining. Oh my
I
gosh,
would
my
say
cat.
it bring. What's Remy think? What does she think of the Judgment Day?
She's rubbing her face on the computer.
All right, so she's got a lot to say from
I
what
guess
I'm
so.
picking up. But it's to me, and I kind of going off that with the letting them be themselves. I mean, Damian Priest messed up big time
But
on
he
the mic.
recovered very well.
But that's the thing is that they're in that, I would say, position where their mess ups you kind of want them to, and
Yeah, it
or
makes it
not
feel
want
more
them to,
like
but
human.
exactly, it
Yeah,
humanizes them so they're not just characters following a script.
yeah.
You feel like you're actually watching Damian Priest in Judgment Day, and what he's saying, he's just like you and I, who obviously we have a mics ourselves, and how many times an episode do we
Mm.
stumble over our words to try to get something out? So to
Yeah.
see that happen on TV and in that and the recovery because of the chemistry they have together, it comes off so nice. Yeah, exactly. David hit it right here. I mean, when he said "Money in the Bank," I was
Well,
like,
and
"What?"
this is the thing though, right? Like when we've seen that before where someone might mess up when they're talking, they don't recover as well as he did, and it was just like second nature to him where it was just like, oh, he, I'm so frustrated, like he has, but there's other times where someone will mess up and they like pause and like let it draw out, and it's like brings more attention to the fact that they mess up,
Yeah,
whereas with him he just went Remy. Sorry, she clicked out of my notes. um he just like jumped very quickly into the
yeah,
next thing, and it was believable because like they were frustrated, and it was like
yeah,
the very intense rivalry that they have with Edge, so it was like, yeah, no, like he is flustered, like he said.
yeah.
So I think he did a good job there. um
So
I
good.
do want to talk about Edge's promo though,
Yeah,
and that was
let's.
another time that I think, like you even said, Beth kind of put him in his place, like kind of shut him down
Yeah,
because he was all over the place. um the Jamiroquai reference, I understood it immediately because
the
this is
what?
very random, but I had an au pair when we were in elementary school, and she loved Jamiroquai and loved that Virtual Insanity song. So I know that song. I know the music video. I immediately knew what he was talking about. But a lot of the younger people, it's like exactly why he was like, Google it, because he knew that most of you weren't going to know
Yeah,
who that was. What?
I don't know who that is, and
Oh,
I'm
okay.
pretty
Well,
cultured, and I don't even know
well,
who that is.
you don't know Jamiroquai apparently. Um, but yeah, so I just felt it was his promo was just a little awkward, a little all over the place. Like I said, didn't really resonate with the younger viewers. But then I was a little caught off guard when Judgment Day came out, and he
Very caught off
alluded
guard.
to Dom engaging in sexual activity in prison.
Wait, who did?
Edge.
I missed that then.
Oh my
Jeez.
gosh, he
That's
talked
why we
about like
gotta.
he had his pants down in prison. I forget the exact thing, but it was like, no, he just straight up was like and I was kind of caught off guard just because, like, I mean, I'm all for, a PG-13 era
Oh, we
in
all, yeah,
wrestling. So I'm not saying that. I was just kind of caught off guard because I was like, I feel like that kind of would be off limits right now. Like that doesn't seem like something that Triple H is like, yeah, talk about that.
but
Like,
but that was the other. I probably didn't because I was hyper focusing on the fact that anytime Dom talks, he
mhm,
just can't get a word out, and it's not
I
even his
know.
fault at this point.
But Finn is like, let him talk. Let him talk.
I love that.
They just are so good at bringing the heat for Dom because they know that, like, it's almost weird in a way that if it weren't for Dom, how hated would Judgment Day be? And I think it's almost sad to think that like Dom might be one of the leading causes of why they're like so over in a bad like, you know, as bad
In the
guys.
right way for them, yes.
Right. But then I'm like, what if they never added Dom? Like, I wouldn't be surprised if Judgment Day wasn't a thing still, not because they're not talented together, but they don't get that same type of heat that Dom does just naturally. And
No,
it's
yeah.
basically just because he feuded with his dad. Like, that's all it took.
Even calling him a deadbeat dad is
I
just like
mean,
an unbelievable line.
I know, but it's just funny because like
Like
there's
an
been plenty of wrestlers who insult their family and they don't get that type of reaction, but
it's booed like nobody I've ever seen. It's incredible.
it really is. I feel like we're kind of, you know, we've talked about it a lot, but it seems like there's just such a different space that like WWE is in specifically right now, because usually it'll be, you know, well, a lot of people are talking about it when they're talking about Sami Zayn
Yes.
and how and everything that he's going through right now is comparable to Daniel Bryan and that whole era of when the crowd, the entire stadium would be chanting yes, yes, yes.
I've seen that.
But if you think about it too, usually it's something like that that's happening, it's one person or one storyline. There's multiple things happening right now in WWE that have that much interaction, not just from the people in the arena, but also at home. We have Dominic, who's crazy hated. We have Cody Rhodes with this massive love. We have Sami Zayn, the bloodline. You know, it's like it's kind of cool that we have multiple stories going on at the same time and multiple characters that are getting that much of a reaction from people. Is I don't know, I just feel like it's more for us to be interested in rather than it being solely, you know, just Sami Zayn. It's like it's just kind of cool that it's like in multiple areas. So like if you're someone who doesn't really care about Sami Zayn or the bloodline or whatever, maybe you really like the Judgment Day, or maybe you really like Dominic or something, you know, like
oh yeah, I see where you're going with it, and you're so right, because I feel like there hasn't been a lot of that.
I feel like it hasn't been like this in a while.
No, not in a long time. It feels like now there are multiple feuds, factions, whatever you want to call them, that you're emotionally invested in throughout the show. And before it was one that it took everything. It was your everything, and then you had a few side dishes, you know, to compare to restaurants. Like that was the product for a while, and now we're in this era where you can literally have, you know,
there's like something for everybody
in exactly. There's something for everyone, and that's what even the Judgment Day, like the fact that they are this dark, mysterious, faction that together you're like, or separately, you're like, really these four together, but together, like you're like, oh, all right, they're electric together. It's just like it's weird, but it makes sense.
Yeah. So I did want to say too, so you know, obviously this Judgment Day Edge storyline has been going on for several months at this point. And I like to see what's going on Twitter and like how other people are reacting to things that are going on. And I was seeing that some people are just not really intrigued by this anymore because, you know, we've seen the matches. We've kind of seen what we wanted to see or gotten out of the storyline what we wanted. But it seems like the bigger story here is Beth versus Rhea.
I want to see
so it's almost like, why isn't that the main event? Like, why isn't that the main match that came out of this? Like, I'm really excited to see Edge and Beth versus Finn and Rhea. I think that's going to be a really good match, obviously. But like, the only reason I would say that Beth and Rhea shouldn't happen at Elimination Chamber is they would obviously have Beth win, and I don't think that Rhea should lose going into Mania. So that's like the one part where I'm, oh yeah, I saw that.
That was so good.
That's the only reason why I'm like, okay, you know, whatever. But yeah, I'm curious to see more of that. I really hope that they have them both on Raw next week, because otherwise there's literally no lead up between like now, because the pay-per-view is next Saturday.
That's crazy.
I know, isn't it? and then there's weeks between that and Mania. So that storyline's only going to continue for a little bit, because then we have to see Rhea and Charlotte and how they're
You
going
have
to
to build that feud.
incorporate those two.
You have to build it.
Yeah. So we'll have to see, but I'm assuming come Elimination Chamber, it's going to be Edge and Beth win, and that might be like the just the nail in the coffin for that storyline. I kind of hope so, and just kind of, it is what it is at this point.
It is what it is.
So let's get into the final men's Elimination Chamber qualifying matches. We had 2 of them. What are you doing?
I don't know, getting ready, getting hyped.
Okay. So we first saw Angelo Dawkins versus Damian Priest. I thought that they had a really good match, and it was kind of nice to see them both in singles action.
Mm-hmm.
I think, because for the most part, from what we've seen, both of them are just they're on TV every single week, basically, obviously, but it's always in a tag team match. And I think it's really cool to see Dawkins get this opportunity to be showcased on his own, because I think, and I've said it before, people love the Street Profits. People love Montez Ford. They're obsessed with Montez Ford, and Dawkins kind of just gets the short end of the stick, where people aren't really recognizing him for actually how talented he is. And so I think it's really cool to see him in these singles matches, to be like, hey, like, Montez is cool, but so is Dawkins. It's not that Montez is carrying him and he's just there for the ride.
And the thing is that every tag team is like, especially one like the Street Profits, everyone's going to try to figure out or want to figure out who's the Jannetty of the group.
I know.
And with this, there's none, and we're going to see this more in the future. This is a Pitt's prediction here, that the Jannetties of tag teams, it's going to kind of fizzle out. It'll always be there, obviously, but in some cases, like New Day, Street Profits now, Judgment Day, just off the top of my head too, they can be fine standing alone. Like, even Chad Gable and Otis. Otis is a big guy, but like, you could put Otis in a middle.
He was just in a solo match by himself like 2 weeks ago.
But he does well. Like, you could put him in an Elimination Chamber match for the U.S. title, and he may, you may not think he's going to win it, but that he's not out of place.
Yeah.
And that's what we're seeing now with this era of tag teams, that you don't have to break up tag teams just to launch a superstar. You can have them be in their corner. You can, it doesn't take away from them. And to be honest, you could probably sell more merch too with them doing this stuff.
It's like what we said with the New Day.
Yeah.
They wanted to push Kofi. So Kofi was WWE champion at one point, but the New Day didn't break up. Same thing with Big E. Big E was WWE champion, but they didn't break up. So I'm kind of hoping that when we see the eventual breakup, I would say, of Montez and Dawkins, I hope that they follow that same route that the New Day is following, because I don't, and I know it's a completely different creative team. I just don't have the trust in the creative team that would fairly treat Dawkins if Montez was like to the moon, because that's what they want. They want him to be WWE champion at some point, which is great. And I think he would be a phenomenal champion.
Yeah.
But Dawkins doesn't deserve to be left behind because you don't see the same in him.
No, but why couldn't you make Dawkins like the U.S. champ when Ford's the WWE or something?
Well, that's what I mean. I think that they should make sure that they don't just forget about him because they want to push the other guy,
He's very good. He's very good.
He is. He's really good and super entertaining. They're both super entertaining. So Priest, I think, was another one. I totally forgot about how he was first presented on the main roster. I totally forgot how he just like came out and was just like, yeah, like, I'm Damian Priest.
What's up? Like, yeah, I remember when he had the title. I was at shows, and he would come out to just banger of a theme song, and I'd be like, who the hell is this guy? And he was like, I just liked him. He wasn't a guy that I'm like, who is this guy? He stinks. Like, get him off.
Yeah.
I was like, all right, like, this guy's here. All right, Damian Priest again. Like, he can hold his own. He's very good too.
Yeah, I when I was looking at pictures for screen grabs from when we make clips, I totally forgot, and I kept seeing that picture, and I was like, wait a second. I was like, I totally forgot about this. My only gripe with this match was that I felt like the result was obvious because we knew that Montez versus Elias was still coming up, and of the two, who's going to be in the chamber match? Obviously Montez. So, and then they weren't going to have the Street Profits in the same match together because they weren't going to want them to have to fight, obviously. So that was my only gripe. But I feel like even though obviously they knew what the result was going to be, they did a really great job. So I didn't have a problem with that.
Did you see the digital exclusive interview that they did with the Street Profits? Montez
No.
was singing to Dawkins that like through it was some R&B song, but it was like that he pretty much essentially like they asked what happened if he won and alluding to what we're talking about, and he's like we're together forever and all this, and then to end it he like started singing some R&B song. Like that's how good he is, that he can just do these funny quick-witted things when he's just for a view of what he's so entertaining and talented. It's unbelievable.
Did you see him when he came out to get Dominic and how he was like scooting down? Yeah, I was just like, he's so over the top all the time, but I love it so much. It's amazing. So speaking of Montez, he had a match against Elias, and my newly shared fandom of Austin Theory was on commentary, and I even wrote that I'm a fan of Theory now.
Yeah, dude, let's talk about that. I want to talk about that over this match. We know what happened. Let's dive into this Theory.
I don't know. You know what's funny is when I saw them online floating the idea around of Cena versus Logan Paul at Mania, I was so disgusted, and I was like, absolutely not. Like, this cannot happen. That cannot be the match. We had already talked about and had been rumored that Cena was going to face Theory. So I was like, okay. I wasn't down with it at the time when that was still floating around. But then when Logan Paul was then the new name, I was like, this cannot happen. I need Theory versus Cena. Like, I can't. So it like almost made me sort of become a fan because of that, because I was like, I never thought that I would be sitting here being like, I need to see this. But I did. And then because I follow some people who do, cover wrestling for a profession, a few of them had been interviewing Theory. So then I started watching their interviews, and I was like, okay, let me see who this guy really is outside of the ring, outside of the character. And I'm like, man, why does he have to be such a nice, normal, humble human being?
Oh, guy.
Like, that's how he won me over. Because even, I don't know if, there are plenty of people who don't pay attention to who people are outside of the shows. And so they don't care, if someone that they're a fan of is kind of an asshole. I do most of the time. Like, I was never a big CM Punk fan, but then hearing about how just toxic of a person he was in general just made me turned off even more. So seeing that Theory wasn't a miserable human being, I was like, man, why do I gotta like you now? And I just like keep catching myself just like enjoying him, and I'm like, what is the world coming to? When now I'm like, I was responding to so many people on Twitter that I follow that are big Theory fans, and I would say, ew, and now I'm sitting there being like, go Theory. I'm like, what is wrong with me?
I think his fashion sense might have. You were hyping up his fashion sense.
I think it's the change from being a kid to being a man. So like he's all manly and he's manly now because he's 25 and he has a beard. So he's all like manly. No, really though, I do think it's like his shift in the character from how he was with Vince and the selfies and stuff that I absolutely hated to how he is now, a very much more serious type of dude. And he's talented in the ring. I never said that he wasn't. So yeah.
Never a question. I
can acknowledge that even if I don't like someone. Like I can say, I don't like their character, I don't like them, whatever, but they're good in the ring. But yeah, so my only problem with him now is his theme song. I hate it. So I hate it. Anyway, so after the end of the match, we know that Montez won. Theory taunted him from on top of the announce table, and then Rollins appears out of nowhere, straight up looking like the third member of Pretty Deadly. I was so here for it. And he knocks him off the table by his legs, and then he stomps him. So I'm curious. You know what? I'm not even going to talk about it now because we have to talk about Elimination Chamber next week. So I don't want to talk about it yet. I was going to say, what are your predictions? But I don't want to talk about it yet. Because then what are we going to talk about next week?
I don't know. I don't know what we're going to talk about next week.
Oh my gosh. David's comment. Okay, so let's talk about the women's. I have a lot to say about this one. The final women's Elimination Chamber qualifying match, which was Candice LeRae versus Carmella versus Michin. I'm calling her Michin versus Piper Niven. I was so team Piper for this match. I was so and you know what's funny is I didn't care for her when she was Dewdrop, but I know she was paired with Eva Marie, who I don't even get me started on Eva Marie. It'll be worse than a Bella Twins rant. So I never really cared for her, but then, you know, just looking into what she's done and the struggles, why she was off TV, and just feeling so awful for her being named a Dewdrop for so long. Yeah, I was just like, let's go, girl.
That just sucks.
Oh, I know.
It sucks being called Dewdrop.
I know, and especially because it was like Eva that started, you know, whatever. Anyway, so I was really disappointed that Carmella won this match, and I expressed it to you last night. Why? And my main thing is I felt comfortable saying that she wasn't going to win because she had just come back. This was her first match back, so I was like, there's no way they're going to have her win. But she did win. So my main issue was that I didn't feel like she had earned her spot. I'm not saying that necessarily the other girls were, I don't know, like they had a stronger or an easier path, like that they should have been there, but they've been around for months, minus Piper. But yeah, I just didn't like Carmella winning, and I hated her outfit. I hated it.
She was paying homage.
No, she wasn't.
Did you not see her Instagram post?
Is that what she's saying? But still, girl, no. To me, it's like first. Well, the only part that looked like it was that she had the thong hanging out. Otherwise, did you ever see Lita wearing cheetah print?
No, that's her flair to it.
Okay, so it wasn't really paying off. I didn't like it. I didn't like it. That's all I'm saying. But anyway, do you think that Carmella was the right choice?
No, I would like to see Candice LeRae. I'm a big. Between Candice LeRae and Piper Nivens, the amount of compilations I see them in you know, through the indie scenes and the English wrestling that they did over there. There's some like all women's promotion that's over there that she fought for. That she fought against Alba Fry a lot, or Fire, whatever her name is.
Mm-hmm.
And she was really good there. So I've starting to appreciate that, you know, their characters a little bit more than just like, oh, they're the jobbers that are just going to come in and take a loss and whatnot. Like, they have talent. I want to see them actually do well. Candice LeRae just felt like is that type of wrestler that is on the same or not the same level, but pretty damn close to it as Asuka. You know, that it's she doesn't need a championship to know, for people to know that she can hang with the boys. And I just as much as I love Johnny Gargano right now and him being in the Elimination Chamber, it would have been nice to at least see Candice LeRae in it too, because of the like spots that she could do in it. Oh, it would have been.
Yeah. Well, and I felt too, you know, it's not just me sitting here and being biased because I wanted Piper to win. I feel like the hype right now is with Piper, and I feel like they should have gone with it. I mean, and the hype with her came out of nowhere. It happened at the Royal Rumble. Her music hit. We saw that she was finally Piper Niven again, and that it wasn't Dewdrop, and she got a really loud reaction. And the same thing last night. People were really excited. So I was like, I felt like that was the right move. And I don't know, it just felt like this was the type of match that she should be in. But it is what it is. My only hope coming out of this is that this means Asuka is winning at Elimination Chamber. And I really, 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 really need to see Asuka versus Bianca Belair at WrestleMania. I don't know how you would choose to not have that happen. I feel like that would be such a good match.
And then Oscar wins.
Yes.
And
And
then
that's like, and I think that's fair because Bianca's been champion for
oh,
almost a
fair.
year,
Absolutely fair. Yeah,
and
nothing
she's
against
won. Yeah, she's won at Mania the last like 3 years. So I think, yeah, no, and I think because of Asuka's character change and the hype with her is out of this world right now.
I bought my ticket to the hype train. I'm
Yeah,
on
so I think that
board.
that's my only hope. So that's why I'm like, okay, Carmella's in, whatever. I don't think it was the right choice, but I'm still putting my money on Asuka to win. At least that's what I'm hoping for.
I would say.
So let's go on to a sadder, such a sad part of Raw. JBL breaking
Oh,
up with
my
Baron
lips
Corbin.
are so sad. He hates to see
Oh.
this. He
So
loses.
we first see Baron Corbin just be obliterated by Dexter Lumis, which we are so here for. I was kind of surprised about it at first, and then this backstage segment just made it more makes sense, you know, because at first I was like,
it made sense.
Yeah, because if that was it and they didn't do anything else, I would have been very confused. But anyway, so that we see a backstage segment where JBL is basically ripping Corbin a new one, and I'm so here for it. And that's funny because, like I said, I don't care about JBL. I'm not a big fan of his, but I just love that he was just tearing into him because their storyline was kind of interesting at first, but then the way that they've been having it progress, it just didn't make sense for it to continue that he was this great wrestling god, blah, blah, blah. So JBL just tells him, like, you're ruining my reputation because you suck so bad. And Corbin's like, oh, I promise I'll do better. I'll
do better, Paul.
And then JBL says you can't polish a turd.
That is, see, all right. This is one of the thousands and thousands of reasons why I'm so happy I got back into wrestling is because comments like this need to be put into my vernacular. Like, you can't polish a turd. Maybe one of the funniest quick-witted things that you could say to somebody.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
I feel like it's just another saying of like, well, you can't put lipstick on a pig, you know.
Another good one. That's
another
good one.
Or if it walks like a duck and quacks like a duck, it's a duck. So, I don't know, something like that. But I'm kind of wondering what this is going to lead to. Like, is JBL going to come out of retirement? Are they going to have a match? Is he going to back a new person and have them antagonize Baron Corbin? Like, what exactly is this breakup leading to? Because we knew what it seemed like originally was supposed to help Corbin get over and get heel heat and like be relevant outside of just being like happy Corbin and I mean, I don't know, kind of just like being there. But now that they're ending it and they're ending it in this way, I just wonder what's next for Corbin. Or is this the last that we're going to see of JBL? Like what is going to happen?
What if JBL says, "Fuck you, Corbin. You're done. You are a loser." And then
he already said that.
But like he says it again. Like
okay.
Something. I'm setting up a story here.
I know. I was just.
He says it next week, and they're getting into it. It could be backstage, it could be out at ringside, or whatever. I don't care. And then all of a sudden, JBL's like, "Well, I got a new winner now. I got someone who's a real, hustler, whatever."
Madcap Moss.
I was gonna go Tozawa because Tozawa's already antagonizing him, and I feel like that it's a nice callback. Even if it's not a longer thing, it still gives a little bit of a rub to Tozawa, and then JBL can go to SmackDown maybe and do that with Madcap because, like, listen, Baron, oh, we just connected some wires. I love it. He goes, oh, your bum ass old like owner, whatever you want to call it, Baron Corbin couldn't do shit, but there was a lot of potential with you that I used to watch with him, and I think you're a star. And then they really go all in with it with Madcap Moss.
Madcap needs it.
Who needs it more? Nobody.
I know.
Fucking nobody.
It's just, I would be fine with that. That would be interesting. The only problem is that they're currently on different shows. So
Mania season, we could start shaking things up like a nice
I mean, we've talked about it because of these matches that they have set up. So it's I wouldn't be surprised if that's coming sooner or later. I don't know, but
Nope.
um another great segment, Brock Lesnar challenging Bobby Lashley, but first of all,
Good evening, Orlando.
yes. And the fact that he talked for as long as he did, I was so thrown off. And the reason being because obviously, if you are someone who's watched wrestling for the last 20 years, Lesnar used to talk all the time. He didn't have a mouthpiece. So it's like, I mean, he was doing backflips off the turnbuckle, at the top of the turnbuckle. So it's
Yes.
not like,
Yeah.
you know, he was this type of wrestler his entire career. But because it's been 10 plus years since he's really said more than a few words on the mic, I was just sitting there so thrown off, and I was like thinking to myself, when did he get a country accent? I'm like, bro is from North Dakota. And I'm like, I know now you're, you know, part of the country, you're in the South, but did you just pick it up because you made a bunch of friends? I'm just like, where is this coming from? He's all like, well, little Bobby Lashley. I'm like, what is happening? Who
Bobby
is
who?
this? Yeah.
Bobby
So,
Lashley.
so he, I mean, I feel like his promo was pretty good. I actually laughed. He was saying how much he thinks about Lashley. He said when he goes hunting, he thinks about Bobby Lashley. When he goes ice fishing, he's thinking about Bobby Lashley. When he's having a big old steak dinner, he's thinking about Bobby Lashley. He says when he crawls into bed with his wife at night, 4 to 5 hours later, he thinks about Lashley. And that, I was just like, that was so on point for him, because when you think about people who are funny or entertaining, comedic, Lesnar is going to be at the bottom of your list. Like,
bottom.
You know, there's random videos that you can find, I think little compilation videos of Lesnar, just the funny moments throughout his WWE career, like
Kurt Angle.
Yes, but also one when he came out with the briefcase and he was like treating it like it was a boombox. Or there was that period where R-Truth kept coming out thinking that he was in a match, but he wasn't. And there's that one segment where he comes out and he says that he's declaring for the Royal Rumble, and he says that he's gonna throw over that big beast, Paul Heyman. And then he's like, I'm not in the match. And it's Lesnar. And Lesnar breaks character. He just starts laughing because R-Truth is so funny. So, like, there's those random things, but it never was something from his mouth. Yeah. So I thought that was pretty cool. And then, of course, you get a Sable chant. Everyone starts chanting Sable.
I mean, who's not a fan of Sable?
Me. And so then he challenges Lashley to a match at Elimination Chamber and said that if Lashley has any balls, that he will come out and accept it. Lashley comes out to, this is the thing that I wanted to talk about too. The audience is very confused with who they're supposed to cheer for and who they're supposed to boo. So Lesnar comes out and the place goes wild. It's like, yeah, woo, woo, woo. And then they're cheering him. They're laughing. They're doing all this while he's talking. Lashley comes out, they're cheering, and he's doing boom, 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 like that thing. And then they get in the ring. Lashley talks some smack and says, I'm going to have my people look at this contract and my people will get in touch with your people. Gets in his face. Lesnar gives him an F5. The whole place goes wild. And then they start chanting one more time. So that's exactly what Lesnar does. And I'm like, I'm so confused. Like, I don't know who's supposed to be who exactly. And I think part of that is because that's just how the two have been recently. They're kind of like teetering between both. And I think it's almost like dependent on who they're facing.
Oh, yeah. It's a great time right now. The fact that you can cheer for both of these guys because they're just behemoths. You just want an absolute, car crash when these two guys get in the ring. And they already have the incredible background of, their actual fighting careers. And then you put them in the ring. I was thinking about this during the segment, that they could really, like, if now the Triple H is in charge and is really just like, listen, whatever gets viewers, they could put on a pretty brutal, and by brutal I mean physical, match that goes some time, has a little bit of storytelling in it, and has a good payoff because they don't have the that Vince looming
Mm-hmm.
over them saying, "Oh, you're the big guy. It's just four
Yeah.
or 5 minutes and then get out of there." It's like, why? Brock Lesnar used to go 20. He
Yeah.
used to go 25. You went fucking 60 in an Iron Man match on SmackDown one time. Like
Yeah.
this man is range. Let him use it.
Well, and I wonder what this means. So obviously they're going to have the match. I can't imagine Lashley's like, no,
No,
next week.
that's happening.
But I wonder what this means for Mania, because this has been the match that's been teased to be happening at Mania. But I think that because we've already seen that, mind you, it was for a title, so it is a little bit different. I'm wondering if they still want that match to be at Mania. I feel like it needs to have a stipulation like an Iron Man match or something, because I think that's what's going to have people gravitate towards the TV and watch it. I think if it's just another standard match, people aren't going to be interested, because if we're going to get it at Elimination Chamber, then why would you tune in to watch it for Mania if there's nothing different about it? There's nothing there for a title, so we know that's not going to be different.
Yeah.
So I think that it needs to be a Falls Count Anywhere or Iron Man or a cage match or Hell in a Cell, something.
Can't have a cage match with Bobby Lashley. That motherfucker would just jump right through the cage and get out.
Well,
of it.
you know what I'm saying. I'm saying there needs to be some sort of stipulation, like 2 out of 3 falls or something. Like I would almost be a last man standing and I quit. Something.
MVP on a forklift.
Shut up. So I feel like that's something that they'll need, but I'm just wondering if they're going to be able to do that.
Yeah.
And how that would ever come about, especially because their match is supposed to take place next Saturday at the pay-per-view. So also I was thinking about this earlier. I cannot break my mind from saying pay-per-view. Like I can't say premium live event, PLE, PLE. I'm like, I can't.
I'm not saying PLE. I'm saying pay-per-view.
Yeah, I know. For the rest of my life. I know.
I don't care. It's on a fucking streaming service. It's a goddamn pay-per-view. I'm
when
paying
I first
pay-per-view.
when I first saw someone say PLE, I had no idea what it was. I was like, what?
I thought it was a English soccer event.
I didn't know what it was until you said it in a text message. And then I put the two together. I was like, oh.
Oh, yeah, because I was making fun of it. Yeah, anytime I see PLE, I just think it's some British soccer event going on.
Yeah, I was like, oh, no. So
like
anyway, so I think that people are still looking forward to that match, and I think it could be a good match at Elimination Chamber. I just wonder what's going to happen. Because then they were also teasing, or at least online, Gunther versus Brock Lesnar. But again, Lesnar's on Raw.
Yeah, and I don't
Gunther's
think
not.
I don't think that would happen. I would see Gunther going for someone else. I don't know.
I need Gunther to be champion for like 5 years.
Yeah, no, they kind of need to keep him with the title for a good period of time.
I wonder if they would do another like Sheamus Gunther match.
If you do,
they've already done it twice though, haven't they?
Yeah, so that's why I agree, but you gotta have a little buffer period before that. And
well, I meant at Mania.
Oh no, I want Gunther to be champion to like SummerSlam.
No, I'm saying if they had that match at Mania is what I'm talking about.
But they would. I don't know.
I guess it could be McIntyre and Gunther. But even they're dealing with the Viking Raider pests right now. So,
Valhalla.
Oh my god. Remember when they were called the Viking Experience? That was the
Viking Experience.
We are the Viking Experience. When you look at us, we are Vikings, and you'll experience that. So, moving on. Chelsea Green demands a match to Adam Pearce.
Anything she wants.
And then it ends up being Asuka. But before we get into the match, I wanted to ask, how do you feel about the Karen gimmick? Now that we've seen it like full-fledged, like we saw a little bit of it at the Rumble or whatever it was. And then maybe it was the Raw after the Rumble. Like we got a little tease of it, but I mean, this was multiple segments on Raw, where it was about the chocolates and the champagne in the
Yeah.
dressing room, and even her yelling at the other girls that are in the match at the Elimination
Oh
Chamber
yeah.
match outside of the ring. How do you feel about this
I
direction
wouldn't
as a
call it
Karen?
Karen. I would call it more diva. She's bringing the title diva back while still being a wrestler because she was still very good in that match, and the fact that she was even in the ring with Asuka should kind of put some bells on people that like she can hang. Like this is not just a one-off. But no, I like it because what it does for her, it just you need that diva type of person who thinks they're all holier than thou,
Mm-hmm.
especially and what I really liked with this match, I would say, was how she was yelling at everyone, and it
Mm-hmm.
really felt like that new girl in school,
Yeah.
just like on. And you kind of need to do more of those type of stories in the mix because that's what it is, and she's good enough where like I mean you could put anyone in there and she can hang. She's been a champion. She's a world champion.
Yeah, and I'm hoping that we get a she gets a better like storyline going forward, because I like Chelsea and I think she's good in the ring. She's also a product of WWE. She was on Tough Enough. I mean, she had trained with Lance Storm at Lance Storm School prior to being on Tough Enough, but I mean, she was on Tough Enough for a few weeks. I still think it was ridiculous that she didn't make it. But yeah, I'm just curious to see how long this whole thing lasts, because it is very much a character that either does really well or it kind of sinks pretty quickly. Because I wouldn't mind if she did the hot mess character that she
Yeah,
had been
even
doing in Impact in the Indies. I would be totally, and I guess maybe they're not for it because they do have a couple girls right now that are doing a crazy character, and
yeah.
that's
Liv
Alexa,
is
Nikki.
crazy.
So maybe they don't. I don't know. We'll have to see.
Nikki
But
is so crazy to be honest.
um, I love her ring gear. I know they made fun of her in the commentary for her hat. I think it's
Perfect.
great. And yeah, I liked that she came out strong against Asuka, because of course you're going to be freaked out because it's Asuka, but
Funny was
then
that?
she was like taunting the girls on the outside. I liked that. And at the end, we had Bianca, who came out and she was talking about her history in the Elimination Chamber. And that is how she won her chance to face the Raw Women's Champion last year. So she was saying, like, I'm going to be watching that match very closely. And then, I'm not going to forget about you. I'm going to focus on you for Mania. So I'm really excited to see the winner of that match. And I pray to God that it is Asuka. That's the only result I feel like I would be fine with.
I think it has to be because the commentary team of Graves and KP,
Mm-hmm.
when Asuka came out as the opponent, was one of the best reactions I've heard on by a commentary team of a
Mm-hmm.
surprise entrant in a long time. It felt so genuine and
Yeah.
like the ultimate payoff of irony, where it's like I demand a match and she's thinking she's gonna get some no name NXT call up, and
Yeah.
you're gonna and then you just have Asuka, not only Asuka, but
But
this new
new.
version of
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
oh
Yeah. I think that would be the only one that I would be okay with.
damn right. Ladarius gets it.
Yes.
Ladarius
And that's what I think too. I feel like that what's interesting though is both are baby faces right now. So it would be really interesting to see that, because then someone's gonna have to choose. I would not be surprised if Asuka becomes a heel though at some point. Like maybe she attacks Bianca or something like that, so then people start hating her. But that we've said it before on about other matches, but that to me feels very like big match feel, Asuka Bianca, and that's like a big compliment to Bianca, because she's done so amazing since being in WWE, and especially as champion. And I think that her having an opponent like Asuka, it's like that you couldn't ask for a better Mania opponent. You couldn't ask for a better opponent for a title too at WrestleMania. So I think, yeah, it's the only one that makes sense. I think it's the only is really the only girl in the Elimination Chamber match that I think a lot of people would be excited about being the one to win. Like, no disrespect to the other girls. Like, I guess some people would be a little interested if it were Liv.
I would vote
Um,
if it was
but I
Liv.
think that like I said with Piper earlier, they got to ride the wave, and the wave right now is Asuka. So it would be a shame if they didn't do that.
Yeah.
So moving on to I think the highlight of the entire night, Cody Rhodes and Paul Heyman's Emmy-worthy performance. And when I say they deserved an Emmy, I mean
no, they really did.
I watched it back this morning because I told my sister about it, and I was like,
you gotta watch it.
I was like, did you see this? And she said, no. I was like, you need to watch it right now. It's 7:30 in the morning. You need to watch it right this second. I don't care. It's 9.5 minutes long. You're watching it. And she obviously was like blown away. Like, and we've always been a fan of Heyman because of just how I don't even know what descriptive word to use when talking about how good he is. I there's no words that are in my vocabulary, I feel like, that accurately describe just how lucky we are to live in a time where Paul Heyman is still in wrestling. Like,
it's unbelievable.
He's so good. He's just so good. And that was just another example of that. But Cody did a really good job too. I thought this is exactly what I think I don't remember if we talked about it on the SmackDown breakdown or Raw Rewind last week, but I was saying, there's so much hype right now over Sami Zayn facing Roman at Elimination Chamber, and that's what everyone is talking about, and people are kind of forgetting, like, hey, like, don't forget you're really behind Cody too, and that's happening after that.
Yeah.
And that I had said I wanted to see more substance to that, because obviously whatever happens at Elimination Chamber is not just going to abruptly end whatever drama is happening.
It still ripples. We still have a lot of ripple effects here, peeps.
I watched an interview with Cody this morning, and they were talking about how these stories are running parallel to each other, but there needs to be some sort of way that they intersect. And I felt like this was the perfect way for that to happen. And I said it on Twitter last night, it was a very emotionally charged segment, which a lot of what Cody has been doing since he came back has all been very emotionally charged. But I love that we got Paul involved in that as well, because I don't think that was expected at all.
At all. And I gotta bring this up because of the story he told. So I'll give context for the peeps. So he told the story about how in 2000, Paul Heyman, true story by the way, Paul Heyman calls Dusty Rhodes and says, "Listen, we're coming to your neck of the woods. I know you're in a little bit of trouble, and I'd love to have you on the show. I'll take care of you, pay you well, and all you gotta do is just show up." So, Sarah, if you recall, when we first started doing the show, we had a little bit of a wheel, and I said to watch a random pay-per-view. Yeah, and you told me ECW, pick a 2001. Well, I picked the one I picked is the Dusty Rhodes one he comes out in. And I'm watching this, and to myself, I'm like, why the fuck is Dusty Rhodes at ECW? Like, what are we doing here?
Yeah.
Like, what is going on? Like, I would say the ignorant wrestling fan watching this, like, what? Like, this is just nonsense. I loved it because I love seeing Dusty Rhodes.
Yeah.
But like, what's the connection? And to hear that story, I instantly started tearing up because I'm the biggest Paul Heyman guy. I'm a Paul Heyman guy shirt before it got yeeted by my mom to Goodwill. And I watched the documentary about Paul Heyman or the ECW one, whatever. There's abundance of them. And the one thing in how I know this is just not a work or a story, kayfabe, is that when he was in ECW, he took care of every single employee, and he was so caring. And that is the other element to this that was so good, that this was not just a promo to set up something.
Yeah.
This was something that you are lucky to have witnessed it either in person or on TV, because the back and forth they had, the stories they told, and the finish, everything. It felt so cinematic, and I've heard a lot recently about how people think Cody and WWE compared to AEW. You know, the place that he caused trouble after he left here. Um, he he's coming off a little bit plastic, or fake, and just like too cartoony in a way with how his storytelling, whatever. But what's going on is that he is bringing back that old school style where guys would just come out and talk and do this. And you don't see that now because fans are a little bit more in tuned and want to be surprised, not just expect the same meat and potatoes every night for dinner. They don't want that. And for Cody to do it and do it so well, and then you have Heyman, the other
Mhm.
old guy, to bring that. I mean, it was the perfect segment for Raw, and I legitimately was tearing up because it was so just emotional, like you said.
Well, and I think since you brought up, the audience of AEW and now seeing him in WWE, I think the biggest difference there is, um, I think he kind of had a lot of difficulty in AEW because people knew that he was one of basically the founding fathers of the company, and so he was teetering um between accomplishing everything that he ever wanted to accomplish, being world champion or whatever, versus basically doing none of that because people would think that he was just giving it to himself because he was one of the founding fathers. And I think now that he's in WWE, his character is himself. So it's like basically he's a John Cena at this point. Like he's not a character, but he's able to do whatever he wants without there being the repercussion of, oh, well, it's because you have stake in the company, you're an EVP, or whatever he was. And so I think when it comes to the people who watched him in AEW, I think that they're a little bit more difficult to please. They don't like the way that things go into WWE. So as far as Cody, I mean, they hated Cody when he was on his way out, basically when he left. They didn't like him. They didn't like his character. They thought the same thing,
It was
basically.
too stale, and it was too old, and it was
Yeah.
a place for it. It wasn't. There really wasn't, honestly.
Yeah, and I think that I think this is another credit to who is ever writing these segments, the storylines, whatever, because this was so well done. And it's not even just because of who was in it, just the fact that it was all encompassing of what we heard from Cody since he's come back at the Rumble, which has only been a week, but also back to when he originally came back in the story of wanting to be champion because of his father and this and this and that. And I liked that Paul played into that, but then also was making sure to emphasize that everything that they're doing and what's going on right now was about Cody and that it wasn't about Dusty. Dusty is just a part of his story because it was his dad, but Cody is the one who has been doing all of this, and Cody has accomplished all of this. I like that he played into that because if you've watched anything of Cody doing interviews or even backstage segments, he's said it multiple times that he doesn't want people to treat him like he's just Dusty's son. He wants Cody to be enough for people. And so I liked that Heyman brought that up. And it's funny because as I was watching it, I was like, wow, this is really good. Like this dynamic, this back and forth, like it's so emotional. I was like, how is this going to end? What is going to be the kicker? Where are we going with this? And so the second that Heyman said my final call with your father, which like broke me because you could just tell like Heyman was emotional. And I just feel every time that we see anybody talk about Dusty, they always get choked up or
Everyone gets so choked up.
and I'm just like, man, like it makes you wish that you knew this man too.
I want to know that. I wish I
you know yeah, and it's like it makes you wish. And I mean, it's been what, like nearly 10 years since he's been gone, so it's like,
are you serious?
yeah, dude. Let me
years?
see. I don't know the exact date, but let me double check.
Are you kidding me?
No, I'm not. I remember it was on an episode of Total Divas. Is that sad? 2015. June 11th, 2015. Right. Yeah, so it's been almost 10 years. I mean, obviously there's some time there, but
What? Yeah.
Anyway, so I think that just shows you like what type of person that he was, and with so many different types of people too. With just yeah. So anyway, I just felt this was a really good setup for Cody versus
Oh
Roman,
yeah.
and I'm really looking forward to see where this progresses. And I think it was a good choice to have Paul do this and to not have Roman kind of kick it off. I
Yeah.
like that it was Heyman because they have that connection. So yeah, I'm really excited to see where this goes because I think it can only get better. And and like I said, it's the
Only going to
substance
get
that
better.
we needed.
It's only going to get better.
And now it makes sense. People can't complain now that, oh, they're just throwing him in because he won the Rumble and they just want him to win the championship. No, there's a lot more to it now. Like what Cody said, that he will be, people are making it personal and he can't wait to personally take away the championship.
Such a
So
good one to get out.
so good. So to cap off the evening, we finally got Bayley versus Becky in the steel cage match main event. It was awesome. I thought it was a good match. It's exactly what I thought it was going to be. Super physical. It was an intense match. I felt it worked really well with their storyline, like the things that they were saying to each other throughout the match. Becky yelling like, "Oh, you want to talk about my husband now? You want to talk about my?" Because then also, if you follow Becky on Twitter, or I'm sorry, Bayley on Twitter, she was posting so many pictures and stuff and videos of Seth throughout the day yesterday, like leading up to Raw. And so I was like, this girl is amazing because like she's just going for the easy kill, but it like works, you know.
It hits.
So then of course we see Dakota Kai and Io Sky are ringside. Dakota has
I know, it's so sad. I didn't like this.
I know she has crutches, so she couldn't really get super involved, but she did throw one of her crutches in the ring for Bayley, and then Io starts to climb the cage, and then Lita's music hits, and I knew that she was there because I saw online that she was backstage, so I didn't know that she was actually going to be involved in anything. But what I thought was interesting is that she came out to help Becky, whereas they've been foes in the past. So I liked it, and I guess there's some video that Becky after the show was like trying to do like the Jeff Hardy thing, like when the cameras turned off. I haven't seen it. My sister told me about it. Yeah, so I did see that some people were teasing the idea of what if this was a setup of Lita and Trish with Becky versus Damage Control.
We are so on the same page.
And I'm like, if that's what it is,
Saraya, my bad. Saraya Pitts.
I'm here for it. I don't love it because I always think it's like, okay, we're just getting like the cheap pop with like, the legends, but I feel like this would be kind of cool because Lita and Trish are my girls. So is Becky. Oh my god, my 3 like favorite women would be. Oh my god, why did that not click?
You're so excited.
I know, I was.
Excitement.
But what's interesting is what has been rumored up until this point was that Damage Control, at least Io and Dakota Kai, would be defending their tag team titles at Mania. So if this is the case, if this is what it ended up being, then I don't think that's what's going to happen. Unless they ended up being Lita and Becky versus Damage Control. But also, how severe is Dakota Kai's injury?
It's minor.
Oh, okay.
Here, Sarah, I just had a brain blast of what is going to happen at Mania, and I have a theory.
Okay, Austin.
That we're gonna see Damage Control's Dakota Kai and Io Sky versus Trish and Lita for the tag team titles. Trish and Lita win and get a WrestleMania moment of them winning.
What about Becky?
Becky will be fighting Bayley in some sort of street fight. Whatever. Their feud is far from over. Okay, I know steel cages were supposed to be the be all end all, and that was the most brutal way. But no, we live in 2022. Steel cages, 2023. Tomato potato. The steel cage is simply a stepping stone to something bigger.
You know what I would love is just like I would love for them to have an Iron Woman or I Quit.
There you go. That's it. See this. We have got to a point now where a steel cage match is below Iron
Yeah.
Man woman
Which is
as a
great when it
match.
comes to the women, right?
It's incredible
Because
because
before it would be like that was like the mountain that they were trying to get to the top of. And now it's like, nope, that's not good enough.
no, but
Not
it's not
anymore.
that. It's not because his thing with that is with a steel cage, it's all brutality and you want to be as violent as possible. Whereas an Iron Man Iron Woman match, it's not that at all. It's all about how good are you in the ring? How good can you tell a story for 60 minutes? That is one of the toughest challenges to do is fight in a 60-minute match. The women haven't really done that. I can
I
only
know,
think
and
of
I'm
one
wondering, I'm
off the top of my head.
thinking that it would probably be more of an I Quit or something because Bailey does have that historic Iron Woman match against Sasha in NXT.
That's
So
what I'm
I
thinking.
don't know. Yeah, so they would probably want to do something different because you also don't want people to constantly be comparing it.
No,
And Bailey's already done it, so it's like, why does she doesn't need to do it again? But I would love an I Quit match. We haven't seen that with the women. That
that's
would be
pretty cool.
cool.
Pretty
And
cool.
then it doesn't have the time constraint either because I doubt they would give the women an hour.
Yeah, unfortunately, yeah.
We'll
It
get there at
depends on
some
pay-per-view.
point. I mean, they did do it in NXT, as I just said. So maybe at some point we'll get that. But I mean, I think that would be good. And that was Raw.
That was Raw.
That was Raw Monday Night Raw.
And that was a lot of fun. That was an A show. I thought that was a nice A minus show.
I'm
I thought
excited for
things
the
went
go home
good.
show next week.
I'm very excited for the go home show. It should be really good. And we're gonna have all our thoughts on that show next week. Sorry, it's Valentine's Day next week. So we got a little date here, you and I, in the yard of streams. And you know what? Because we're both champions in our own right of the peeps, we would like to invite all you peeps to join us on that date Tuesday for a little Raw rewind next week on the Go Home show. And if you don't want to just wait to that, you want to know what we're talking about. You follow us on Twitter at Pat_Pitts and at SMarshXO. Then follow me on Instagram at Pitsy35 and at SMarsh_. Okay, so go follow those accounts. Follow us, see what's up. I do question things. Ask me some questions. We would love to hear from our peeps. And make sure you subscribe. Make sure you subscribe to that podcast we do. I'm getting flustered, Sarah.
Okay,
Make
Damien.
sure Money in the Bank is just all in my mind. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast, Pits and Sarah's Wrestling Podcast, where we talk about things that aren't just breakdowns of shows. We talk about everything wrestling that we love. This week we got an episode on Thursday we'll be recording. So be on the lookout for that and hit that subscribe button on whatever app or streaming platform you view your podcast on. And then Sarah's YouTube channel if you're watching on Twitter. All right, we put clips on Sarah's YouTube channel of this so you don't have that hour to sit down and watch all our crazy shenanigans. You just want to hit the clips, hear what we have to say about specific things. We got that for you because that's what champions do. So go hit that subscribe button on Sarah's YouTube channel, Sarah Marshall XO.
I believe so, yes.
Yes, let's go. All right. And that's all we got, Sarah. So tune in next time. We'll be back on Thursday for our wrestling show. And until then, thank you. God bless. Remember that you can do it. All you got to do is try. See you next time.